Could Star Citizen be the best space game ever made? Well, the title certainly has enough headlines and enough funding, but can that really signify quality? In this video series then, I explore potential candidates for the best space game ever. The question, does Star Citizen qualify? Also, I'd like to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video. More about them at the end of the video. So, to see whether or not a game qualifies, there are 5 separate checkpoints. The game needs to pass more than half of these to be viewed as a potential candidate. Keep in mind this isn't a full review. A full review may come later if the game passes. Additionally, I fully realise Star Citizen is in a somewhat unique position due to its alpha state. Ultimately though, it's not the only space game in early access, hence it still gets included. Now, Star Citizen's game world is easily among its best assets. Not only is it beautiful to look at, but it's extremely detailed. This level of detail and this level of beauty works on the macro level. Just look at the cities, right down to the micro level. Just look at the individual blades of grass and individual flowers. So this really is a technical achievement that no other space game can rival. In terms of scope, there's perhaps 2 other examples, No Man's Sky and Elite Dangerous. Whilst these other 2 titles are easily much bigger than Star Citizen, they lack the visual details, the visual quality that this game delivers. So for me, this makes Star Citizen the go-to game for space exploration. Now there is a level of irony here. After all, the title doesn't have any dedicated exploration gameplay mechanics. So this, perhaps more than anything else, is a testament to the quality of the worlds and the environments. Whether you simply want to wander around the interior of ships, the lengths of city streets, or the vast open vistas of planets, there's no other space game out there that can hope to rival this particular aspect of Star Citizen. And what that means is, even in its alpha state, Star Citizen's game world is unrivaled amongst the space game genre. Unfortunately, this level of detail and quality does not extend to gameplay. Naturally, not everyone is going to be happy about that statement, but it's pretty true nonetheless. In my opinion, how you feel about that situation will depend upon how you play Star Citizen. If you play with friends, if you're into heavy multiplayer, then well, you're very likely going to find a lot of gameplay. There's some emergent gameplay there. It is, after all, a pretty neat little sandbox. This isn't just an idle claim. If you take a quick search of YouTube, you'll find many examples of multiplayer activity within Star Citizen. Of course, this isn't the style of multiplayer gameplay you'll find in the likes of Call of Duty or Arma or anything like that, but rather it's something that's unique to Star Citizen. And this often comes down to groups of players taking out ships and vehicles and messing around within the boundaries of the game world. For a lot of people, it's something that works very well indeed. When it comes to core gameplay activity though, it's a very different story. Here, there's a lot of extreme limitations. That's not to say there isn't any gameplay, it's more to say it's not fully fleshed out and not fully developed. And yes, much of this will come down to the game's current alpha state, so it's very important you keep that in mind. Nonetheless, after many years of development, there's still some bit too many limitations here. Now there is a range of missions you can undertake. There's also mining activity you can also participate in. Missions range from courier jobs to combat activity. If you pick up a courier mission, you'll be hand-delivering a parcel from A to B using your ship as a taxi. Meanwhile, if you undertake combat activity, these come in 2 distinct forms, space-based combat and ground-based combat. The ground combat, in my opinion at least, tends to be not very good. The ship combat, on the other hand, is pretty decent. How much enjoyment you get from each of these, though, will likely depend upon the quality of your equipment. The better your ship, for example, the better the activity can sometimes feel. Regardless of this, though, ultimately, gameplay within Star Citizen is serviceable at best. For the most part, it achieves what it sets out to achieve, but there's often problems along the way. Ultimately, it's impossible to talk about Star Citizen's gameplay or indeed any aspect of Star Citizen without also talking about updates, and this perhaps is the most controversial point of this particular video. The updates for Star Citizen are in a very odd place compared to any other game. This comes down to the fact that the title is crowdfunded as well as still in alpha access. To be perfectly fair to CIG, they do regularly update the game. There is, after all, frequent multiple patches per year which build upon the game's foundation as well as deliver new content. Arguably though, the scope of these patches has decreased over time. And it seems more than possible the reason for that is due to CIG spending an increasing amount of their resources on the single-player title Squadron 42. Yet it's often said that anything developed for Squadron 42 will ultimately benefit Star Citizen. The downside is that benefit isn't immediate. Even with that in mind, however, the scope of the work on Star Citizen is often considered to be immense, and there's perhaps no better visual example of that than the game's ship designs. The this is easily one area where Star Citizen outshines any other space game. The quality of the ships here on offer is exceptional, both in terms of aesthetics, exterior and interior. The attention to detail to even the smallest of ships is completely unrivaled. There's nothing else out there that comes even close. In fact, if you want an even remotely parallel example, you have to leave the space game genre and start looking at the flight sim genre. Only here do you find other aircraft that perhaps rival or even exceed the design of those in Star Citizen. Check out DCS Worlds for example, and here you will find planes priced up to £65, with a total DLC value of around about £2,400. In the flight sim arena then, it's quite common to pay up to $150 for a single plane, and these are often lovingly created and exceptionally detailed, modelling their real-world counterparts. Planes from flight sims then are perhaps the closest analogue to Star Citizen ships. However, Star Citizen ships are a different kettle of fish, simply due to their pricing. Some people will tell you the game shouldn't be judged by this, but it's impossible to talk about the title without also mentioning this. Regardless of your feelings towards pricing and costs here though, the quality of the ships on offer is undeniably great. It's fortunate then that the ships also handle well. The flight model within Star Citizen is well thought out, with different ways to fly each particular ship. The ships feel suitably weighty or suitably light depending on the type of ship you're going for. Some of them are very fast and very manoeuvrable, others are slow and weighty. Either way, there's a sense of mass and a sense of velocity. The flight mechanics of any space game then are very, very important, and here Star Citizen hits more often than it misses. So, whilst the title doesn't have the best flight model in the space sim arena, it's very, very close. To sum up then, where does Star Citizen stand with the 5 key components of a quality space game? Its game world is unrivaled. There's nothing out there like it in the space game arena, and perhaps there's nothing else like it even beyond that. It's clear it's lovingly created, and the attention to detail is second to none. If you're the type of player that just likes to pick up a ship and chill out flying about or even walking around the surface of planets, then Star Citizen is a very, very good title to pick up. Beyond that, the game world serves as the perfect backdrop to the day-to-day activity. Although that said, some people may find the extensive train rides and travel times around space a little bit on the tedious side. Nonetheless, when it comes to the game world specifically, in my opinion at least, the world of Star Citizen is exactly what a space game should be. Unfortunately, for now at least, this doesn't extend to the gameplay. Now, this isn't because the gameplay is fundamentally bad, it's actually pretty good, it's rather that it's extremely limited, at least for now. Whilst all of this is bolstered by the nature of the game mode itself, lending to semi-emergent or sandbox-style gameplay, the style of gameplay that is enjoyed by multiplayer, the same cannot really be said about missions, mining and other playstyles. Arguably then, how much you enjoy the gameplay on offer here may well depend upon whether you play in groups or whether you play solo. All that said, due to the nature of Star Citizen's alpha access, well, it means this can't be a full-on criticism. It means that ultimately there will be time to improve this, assuming CIG follow that. For now then, this can't be a cross, instead it's going to be an advisory, not ideal and not fundamentally broken either. Pretty much the same can be said about the game's updates. Now, due to the fact of Star Citizen still being alpha, it of course needs to have regular updates, so it's hard to use these as a yardstick as a measure for the title's quality. What I mean by that is fully released games get updates as content expansions, basically get brand new content. Star Citizen, on the other hand, needs these updates to actually get it towards being a fully released game, so it's very hard to use updates as a measurement of whether or not this game qualifies. So again, right here, can't be a tick, can't be a cross, has to be an advisory, at least until the game gets its full release. Now of course, the one thing that Star Citizen is famous for is its spaceships, and deservedly so. As I've mentioned early on, the spaceships here are of exceptional quality, and I genuinely believe they have an almost universal appeal. Whether you come to the game for immersion, exploration, combat, or indeed anything else, the spaceships are a huge central focus. In other words, I think this is one case where we can say something is good, both subjectively and objectively. Now, there are going to be some arguments here and some debate over the funding model for the spaceships, but for now, for the purposes of this video at least, that is entirely separate to the quality of the ships themselves. So yes, very much the ships here are some of the best, pretty much the best, you're ever going to find in any space game. Fortunately, this quality also extends to the game's flight model. Now, CIG seem to have gone out their way to find a flight model that works both for casual players as well as hardcore players, something that is often very much missing from many games. It's a hard thing to achieve to please both crowds. Essentially, whether you're a casual pilot and just want to get in a ship and go, you should be able to do this, or if you're a hardcore pilot and want to keep perfecting your skills, you should also be able to do that. So this then is another area where Star Citizen actually succeeds. To wrap up then, Star Citizen is a very difficult game to recommend as a potential candidate for the best space game ever released, simply because it's not yet been released. But there's a keyword there, the keyword is potential. And despite whatever flaws you may find surrounding the game, Star Citizen oozes potential. For now then, it's very much a case of time will tell, but potential remains very much on its side. Talking of potential and time, Squarespace offer the ability to save both time as well as offer huge potential for your website. With professional templates, your website can be up in no time at all, offering members-only gated content. With access to email and audience insights, you'll always know what your audience want. And a huge list of plugins gives you a whole ton of flexibility. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/obsidianant to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.